Okay, we're live, and I got all the words out of the way, and our faces are up, and we're live. um, Welcome, David, again to this is our 5th week.
Woohoo!
And what I was saying just before we went live is I get the most responses and the most reactions from the conversations I have with you. And and I don't want to cry every time I talk with you. I do, I I want to. I just want to.
Evidently, it's good for ratings.
I know. I know.
Oh, God.
Uh, but it's interesting. I made my room a little darker today and got rid of some of the light over my head. And I was sitting here really quiet, playing this really quiet music and just trying to get quiet. And I was thinking today what we talked just a bit before we went live, and I said it doesn't seem like anything I do I can break free from just the underlying current of events and stress that just seems to be flowing. And one thing that I've done, and I want to share this with you, I've wanted my daughter to not get the same sense of despair, distress that I might be feeling or it might be going around. So I've been saving all my money just for food. But she wanted to paint her room, and she wanted to make her room more. It was blue, and she wanted to make it more uh, uh, brighter. So
Mhm.
we went down. I took $50 and went down and bought paint and everything, and I let her paint her room. And she's so happy because she made it this nice bright yellow and I know I told you last week we go out and we grab donuts and drive around. And her experience now is when we're home, we're doing things that are fun and uplifting and things that she remembers, and she's making her room more like she wants it and changing it around. And I think that's important. And I'm trying to help her not feel the same underlying stress that I'm feeling. Um,
Mhm.
but so it's been good, and I feel really good about that. And at the same time, I still have this kind of underlying. I only turn the news on for like 1 second to see how the the COVID stuff is going, and I get instantly feeling this way. And before we get going too far, can we do the invocation again? And my thought today is I want to break free from that drama and that stress from outside of myself and think of more uh, visualizing and working at developing a different story for myself moving forward, because I'm realizing even though I'm staying in the present and I'm doing the best I can, it every day I think about the bills I need to pay. I think about not getting sick. How how can I sit and make a new story for myself and start visualizing seeing something new coming and breaking free from that? So when I in the invocation bring in bring in that new visualization and of a new story for myself and those around me.
All right. So, in doing this, um, give surrender to the process. Close your eyes. Forget about your dials and buttons for a second, and just imagine with me as we take in the breath, and anybody watching as you take in the breath, that you actually relinquish having goals. Just for a moment, no goals. And the practice is just to breathe, to just focus on the breath. And if you can do that, you can just focus on the breath, you realize that it is there. There's no trying to go find it. There's no way in which you have to earn it. There's no bartering. It's just there. It's the isness of breath. And so there's no goal involved other than just to allow it in. So just do that for a second. Just allow the breath in. Play around with this free allowance and channel the breath to certain areas in your body that maybe need some special attention. If you want to channel that breath towards your shoulders, a lot of times between our eyes, we hold so much tension in the third eye area and in our forehead. Just relax it, send the breath to there. But really, you're just accepting. You're accepting the gift of breath. And what I invoke for our time with this session is the ability to not try to avoid something, but to allow what is. And whatever that means for us, whatever the significance in dropping all pursuit of something and just being, we allow that to be a topic that can be excavated a little bit and explored with compassion and understanding and inherent wisdom. And may all of us that are listening, at whatever time that we are listening, be able to find whatever nugget of wisdom, whatever particularly made gift that is ours for us personally, that we hear it, we see it, we accept it, we invite it in, we allow it, and it begins to dissolve this idea that we have to get away from or get rid of something, but just turn our focus and attention to what is, to the isness, to the gift of life, and just like the breath, allow that in. And so with that as our intention, and with that as something that is readily there, may we receive it now in whatever way and whatever form. And we allow that all to be infiltrated in an energy of gratitude, strengthening this muscle of the already having received attitude for whatever it is that we need. And for this, we give thanks and we're grateful. And so it is. Ashe.
It is. Amen.
All right.
Oh,
So did you hear that little piece in there about um, I want you were saying to me, I want to get rid of, I want to get past, I want to make this thing go away. And I'm wondering if that adds just even more pressure and more stress to the situation. So one of the things that I focus on sometimes with a select couple of friends is we go no goals, no goals. Our time together is not goal oriented. Our time together is to be, to focus, to enjoy, to laugh, to breathe, to not put any pressure on ourselves to have to be something or to deliver something or become something, but to just be. And you'd be amazed at how easily, even when we are in agreement with that, the conversation will drift off into this thing of that's something about I gotta get, I gotta get, I gotta get. So there it becomes a goal. And so just taking in what it is that you requested at the beginning of this, um, what would it be like every time you say or hear yourself thinking or verbalize, I've got to do this thing in terms of your state of being, to just set that down for a second and go, no, I don't need to do anything. Let me be with this state of being and listen to what it wants to say.
hmm.
And it's that classic thing of just be here now. Just be. Because here's the thing, we wear ourselves down. We wear ourselves down. We just continue to file away at our our worth and our essence. We keep filing it down by this thing of I need to get away from what I am right now or what I'm feeling right now.
Mm, mm.
Do you kind of see that? So what does that mean? That means that we're always sprinting. We're always running. We're always seeking. We're always reaching out rather than just going, oh, okay, I'm noticing, whew, I'm noticing what I'm feeling. I'm noticing the abnormality all around me. And rather than trying to be somewhere else other than that feeling, just be with the feeling. What do you think is the advantage of that?
Of just of just allowing myself to feel what I'm feeling.
And what's the advantage of that?
Um, well, what comes to mind as you were talking is just before a, an hour ago or so, I was feeling like I needed to do something. I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to do this. And I finally decided, I'm just going to lay down and it doesn't matter. And I felt some relief to not worrying about getting anything done. And there was some relief to that. And I think the advantage is that if I allow myself to not worry about anything and not take on, it's interesting how my body reacts when I feel I have to take something on, and it feels the muscles tighten up, the chest tightens up. And in this day and age, it instantly feels sick. I feel my right now and I think we talked about this a little last week, and during the course of this last week, that since we talked, there's been a few people that I've talked to that said they go through a similar thing where they're just feeling this and they're not feeling well, and their first thought goes to, oh, I'm getting COVID-19 or whatever it is. So if I if I allow my stresses and feel my body, and if I spend any time trying to relax, I notice the tension that and the stress in my body that immediately my brain tells me I'm getting sick.
Mm.
you know, so almost everything about my physical body is being manifested through uh, my stress and my telling myself I need to do something. I need to make money. I need to do this. I need to apply for that. And the constant barrage. This is the interesting thing. And I get a little upset when I watch families having all this fun at home, and they make these little home movies and they're having fun and blah blah blah. And I think to myself, that isn't my time off. My time off is waking up to emails saying that I've missed payments, and then trying to figure out what I can apply for to get funds to cover those payments. And someone said to me yesterday, we're all in the same storm, but we are definitely not all in the same boat. So when I hear somebody say, we're all in the same boat, no, my boat's way different than your boat. and uh, so uh, the those kinds of things fill my mind, and I gotta say, sometimes I get a little I'm sad because I wish I could sit and enjoy my time with my daughter the way I see some of those home videos on Facebook, and the families are getting together and they're making funny little comedy things, and everything seems to be fine for them, and they're not fine for me.
So
And
let me stop you.
yes,
Everything seems to be fine for them. Via what? via your perception,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
That's true. Yeah.
And you said, I wish that I could. Well, here's the thing about wishing. You can. You can bake cookies with your daughter.
Yeah.
You can make a video with your daughter. You can do all of those things. It's just a matter of whether or not you choose to do them. So I don't know the videos that you're referring to because there's just a glut of things of
Right.
creativity, a creativity that just abounds and astounds and makes me laugh.
Right.
That is produced by us as this species called human. We're amazing. Um, and that in no way overrides whatever boat that they are in, and there's no way to get around the the situation that is all pervasive for everyone, and yet to judge yourself or say I should be doing this or I should be doing that then defeats the creativity of defeats the creativity. It defeats what it is that they're offering. Can you imagine if someone came to an event that you produced and saw you with all of your set and all of your mastering going on at the table and looked at you and said, I should be doing something like that, but I don't have the proper equipment, or I don't have the time, or I don't have the, and all of a sudden they're watching you in your mastery and in your creativity, and they're feeling bad about themselves.
Mm.
What would you say to them? You wouldn't say, "Yeah, yeah, I'm better than you," and "Yeah, I'm doing all of this." You would probably want to encourage them and say, "Look, this is how things developed for me. This is what I needed to do. This is the process by which I now am doing this." And you would probably help them because that's the kind of person that you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, I just have to to caution you, or that's maybe a harsh word, but to just invite you to be more mindful of the fact that um, you can do those things. There's no one handcuffing you away or separating you from the choice of joy.
Mm.
They're just not. So that makes joy what? Does that make it expendable? Does it make it expensive? Does it make it out of touch? Does it make it specialized for the people who are in specific boats on the ocean? Or is joy just there for the asking, for the gleaning, for the collaboration, for the cooperation in order to come in and be explored? But that's a choice. And the other thing too is, yes, I've heard that quote also, and
Hmm.
it's clever, it's descriptive, and just like everything else, it has its own paradox because uh, I can suddenly start to say that my boat is worse than your boat.
Mm.
And I don't know if we've ever talked about that, but our pain isn't special.
Yeah.
Our pain isn't special. And that's probably one of my least favorite topics when I present. I've gotten up in front of people and talked about this idea of an affiliation circle. So if you've ever done like retreats, like 3-day retreats, and you get to know everybody, uh, eventually, if it's timed right and it's facilitated right with skill, then you all stand in a circle. And in that circle, or someone says, okay, I want everybody who had coffee this morning to come and get into the middle of the circle. And so generally, pretty much everybody. And I say, okay, everybody look at one another and then step back out into the outer rim of the circle. Now, how many of you traveled more than 100 miles to be here? Step into the center of the circle. And so those people do. And I say, look at one another, make eye contact, acknowledge. Now step back into the outer periphery. And then you begin to introduce um, questions of a more tender nature, and you start to get into economics, and you start to get into marriage and divorce, and you start to get into things that most people don't just confess openly. But now you've created this bond. You've been in a retreat for several days. You've started lighthearted, and you begin to get deeper. And then you say, how many of you are products of abuse? How many of you have experienced incest? How many of you, and you get deeper, addiction. And all of a sudden, when people start to come in and they look at one another, something begins to shift. And you start to see that this thing you've been holding, or this feeling that no, my pain is special, no one's going to understand it, and no one's going to be able to comprehend what I have been through.
Mm.
Then all of the sudden, that exercise opens up an entire world where you see, oh my God, there are other people who are experiencing the same thing that I have. And so it accomplishes a couple of things. One is that it helps us understand that we are never alone, that we are never isolated in our pain. But to me, one of the greatest things that it can uncover is the idea that our pain isn't special. And that's what pisses people off. Because all of a sudden the jig's up, it's like I've been walking around holding my pain in sacrosanct. It's holy. Course in Miracles talks about the special relationship. Well, the special relationship with my pain is the thing that separates me from the actual freedom that I'm saying that I'm wanting.
Mm.
So if I'm going to go around in my woe is me energy, I have a right to do that. I do. I can hold it, I can cradle it, I can nurture it, I can make it special, I can make my identity all around it. It can become my calling card. But the paradox is that the very thing that I'm saying that I'm wanting, the liberation from that pain, will never happen. It just won't. And that's what's so fantastic about an exercise like that, because we're all walking around with these sort of closeted, special categories of pain. I've been through this, I've been through that. You know what? It's like, yeah.
Mm.
I had a teacher who one time in a class, somebody just went off about everything that had happened to them. And they had no idea what she had been through. And she listened. And then she said, you want to go toe to toe? I can match you abuse for abuse. I can match you addiction for addiction. You want to go toe to toe? And it was that kind of woke them up. And hear me, and anybody else listening to this in no way diminishes the experience. It in no way makes light of the pain and the path that has been traveled. It's not that. It's not sweeping it under the rug, but it's offering something that you don't have to stay identified with that if you choose not to, because joy is readily available, redemption is readily available. But it's a practice. You know why? Because we're really good at tribalism. We're really good at finding our tribe, our woe is me tribe, our this tribe, our that tribe, our addiction tribe, our abuse tribe, our can't find a good partner tribe. We can find everybody that can share in that sorrow. But I'm telling you, man, if you can start to find a tribe that can share in joy, that's the tribe. That's when tribalism works.
You know, um, I was thinking while you were talking that some of what I'm going through, I'm just trying
Every
to express it and just get it right out, just dump it out and feel it. and hopefully others can relate to it. But there, in the past, when I'm feeling this way, I go and I find people, I get together with them, I find ways to get out of myself. And it occurred to me just now, especially, that I really have to work harder now at getting out of myself because I can't do what I used to do to be able to like go to church or go to meetings or get together with a friend or uh, find some camaraderie. We have to do it this way.
Hmm.
And it's more difficult to find ways to get out of myself. And I'm here by myself and left to my own devices and my own thinking in my own little home, I can go pretty nuts with this stuff. you know, I, just give me a few minutes to think alone by myself, and you know, um,
And we need to kind of go back to the beginning when I said about no goals
mm,
and about what would it be like if you just allowed those feelings to be. And so it may feel counterintuitive to the whole thing about the affiliation circle example that I gave you. But here's the thing. If if even left to your own devices and even isolated, you're trying to avoid, you're making those feelings special.
mm,
Do you follow?
yeah,
Because you're giving them energy because you're turning away from them, but you're not free of them. You're turning away and you're avoiding, so they become the monkey on your back
mm,
instead of turning to them and going, okay, I'm listening. Like, have you ever actually sat down with the feeling of fear and go, okay, I'm listening. What do you want me to know? Rather than going to bed, eating, turning on the television, doing something that medicates us away from the feeling, because that's the thing. If we keep medicating the feeling, then the genesis of what the feeling is tied to never really gets looked at. That's the cause of the effect.
mm. And rather than looking at it and just sitting with it and feeling it and watching a TV program, and I still have the feeling there, it
Mhm.
just manifests more of the same. And
When you sit with it.
yeah, well, no, what I mean is if I sit and just let it be and
Mhm.
feel it, let it kind of float through me, wash through me, that's okay. But if I know it's there and just turn on TV and just kind of not really look at it, but it just kind of sits there, it just grows and manifests more
Mhm.
because I'm just, like you said, I'm avoiding it.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah.
What if feelings, every range of feeling, they're neither good nor bad, they just are. What if those are like relationships? And what do we know about relationships? Like, the best the best relationships are relationships that communicate,
Mm,
that listen. You can have a communication with your feeling. You can have a communication with fear. You can have a communication with anxiety. And you can say, I wonder what this is about. What are you about? What do you want to teach me? It's remarkable when we can get that intimate with ourselves and that curious with ourselves. Because curiosity, to me, is the precursor to breakthrough.
mm,
If I'm not curious as to why I'm feeling that way, then I just keep medicating the same feeling over and over and over again. But if I'm curious about, why do I feel so inadequate? I have felt so inadequate this week trying to manage a nonprofit that offers education in developing countries because it's been very challenging. And I sat with it. I called every single board member and I just said, I don't feel like I'm a very good executive director. I just don't. I'm not I'm not producing. I'm not doing. And so I get fearful that we're not going to have the budget to cover our programs and what's going to happen when the schools open and we got blah blah blah. But by communicating it rather than just trying to power through it, I heard what I needed to hear. I got the compassion that was beneficial, but I also had like the fog kind of lifted and the breakthrough needed in order to do the things that I needed to do. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to have the feeling again, but there were moments. There are moments this week when I look, I'm probably like you. I don't know very many people that have gotten a stimulus check, and the first is coming up and we're all like looking going, okay. And and what is at the root of that? So this is where it gets interesting, if you can be curious of that. So we have this thing called a house, shelter, right? We either have a mortgage or we have rent. What happens if we can't pay that? Well, there has to be some communication. Now we can either try to avoid that communication or we can meet it head on. So we talk to a company or we talk to a landlord or we talk to a person and we try to work something out. Let's say that nothing can be worked out. Let's say it's just, it's cemented in the way in which it has to be done. So then what are the alternatives? Oh my God, I have to leave. I have no place to go. So then what? Now I have to communicate my need to a circumference of people. Do you think maybe somebody in that circumference will say, well, I can help you out and do this and this and this? But again, each step along the way is a point in decision time where I once I get to that, I make that decision. But what I'm wanting in my initial fear is I want all of this handled. I don't know what all of this is going to look like. It's going to be a step at a time. And I will learn something from each step. And you know what? There's magic in a lot of those steps.
Mm.
There are offerings that happen from generosity of heart and spirit that perhaps we would have never known if we hadn't communicated and looked and met and spoken and done whatever it is that we need to do. But that's just the nature of this thing called life. And what's the worst thing that could happen? We just roll over and die. And actually, that's a fallacy because there's no death.
Mm. You know, every time we talk, I we we circle back to the same things, and I always feel like um, I keep my own lessons just keep coming back and representing themselves for me to learn from them. And it sort of occurs to me that the great equalizer in all of this is our feelings.
Mhm.
That's the one thing that we have, each and every one of us has in common. And that when someone comes up to me and says, I'm really scared, that's the one, and is honest about it and authentic, I can identify with that and I can relate to that.
Mhm.
And as you were talking about the rent thing, that's the one thing that just drives me right into I am absolutely terrified to get thrown out of the house.
And
And,
didn't we talk about that last week, that
and
that's wrapped up in shame and the projection of not living up to a societal standard and not providing for.
yes,
And none of that has happened.
no,
And yet that's the thing that you already put on the weighted shoes. You already put the cement shoes on and you're already sinking and it hasn't happened yet.
and this is what just is so unbelievable for me sometimes is as I sit with you, how many different ways, and I think I even said this to you last week, how many different ways can you tell me the same thing in order for me to what get the message? And um
And it's not just you, it's me. I have to hear it, Jeff.
yeah,
Come on, let's be honest. My emotional roller coaster is just like yours.
yeah, yeah,
And just like everybody else who's watching you.
yeah. I I think that healing for me, this is one thing that I've always done. And uh, for example, um, I got sober when I was 19 and started going to AA meetings, and I now had 42 years. And I still go to meetings, but I still get honest and real. If I'm feeling messed up, I say I'm scared, and I say what I'm feeling, and then I'll have people look at me like, but you got 42 years. You shouldn't feel that way.
Mhm.
and and I'm thinking, well, I do. And just because I've I'm 61 or I go to church or I pray and meditate or I have so much time and I've been clean and sober, whatever it is, doesn't mean I still don't have these emotions that get the
Mhm.
best of me sometimes. And the struggle with those emotions have been the hardest thing for me to deal with my entire life. And what's really interesting is there are things that I no longer fear, and then something new comes up that I learn, oh, there's something different that I'm afraid of that I have to relearn the same things I taught myself about being afraid of drinking. If I'm making any sense.
So tell me, wait, so this was good. So what you said, there are things that you don't fear anymore. What are those things?
Well, I'm not afraid of being alone. I'm not afraid of.
How did you get there? How did you get to this resolve of not being afraid of being alone?
Um, I spent time alone.
Okay.
I spent time alone, and I realized that I don't have to have somebody with me in order to feel whole or complete.
And so in order to get over a fear of being alone, you needed to be in the aloneness in order to cultivate whatever that mastery is. So what are you afraid of now?
Uh,
Not having enough? Not enough resources?
yeah, not enough resources.
Does the same principle apply then?
It
Now you have to be in a time of not having enough resources in order to get through the fear of not having enough resources.
absolutely. So I think, and this is what's interesting, and I kind of want to bring this moment in time for the planet, which I'm a part of, in which if we weren't going through this COVID-19 thing,
Mhm.
I would never have been in a position to be one foot out the door to being homeless. And I'd never experienced this before. And it's given me and I'm having to learn to accept and deal with that the same as you just said, that it's the same process of being okay with being alone and not being afraid of that. And at the same time, it's giving me a whole different perspective on people who are homeless
Mm,
or don't have as much. And I would, this is something I never have had to sit with
mm,
as an adult man. And we talked a little bit about this last week as a man and being the provider. Um, so this particular time, if it wouldn't have happened, I never would have probably had to go through what I'm going through right now. And it the point I'm getting at is I think something's always going to come up
mhm.
that I'm going to have to learn again. And I think that being afraid of things or learning, uh, it, something may always come up that oh, okay, I thought I was well. I thought I really had my stuff together. And then this thing blindsides me and I'm going, oh, well, oh. And I think that I've sort of kicked myself because I've been telling myself I'm not worthy. And that's not the case. And we talked a little bit about this last week.
Mhm.
And I think, honestly, since last week, I still don't think I've actually quite sat and accepted and let it work through me.
Mhm.
And I, it's not easy. It's not easy. And again, I don't want to minimize what I'm going through, but at the same time, I know there are people, and you were saying you, with all the different people you talk to in your position, a lot of people come to you looking for help, looking for relief, looking for, uh, just a ear to have somebody to listen to, and I know that there are hundreds and thousands of people that are just all going through this same thing. So so it's not just me that's
Right.
living through this and breathing through this.
And we're at a certain level in our communication because we've been talking for a while. So maybe some of the things that I've said to you in this broadcast, I wouldn't say to someone else.
Mm,
But I'm tuning in now to sort of the methodology of how to enter into your state of willingness.
mm,
And so there's a little bit of soft pedaling in the beginning, but now there's more of a fire hose component where you're going to get to drink from the fire hose if you so choose, because some of the soft pedaling now isn't going to work for you. So this is interesting because people who may just see this one,
mhm.
they may look at me and go, God, what an asshole. Poor guy's in pain. And yet, this is a series by which you and I have been working. So
Right,
it's like Mama Bird in the nest, and you're the baby bird in the nest, and at some point, Mama Bird's going to go, okay, and I'm going to systematically start to pull out the soft twigs in the nest and make it more prickly because you can't stay here.
right,
And I would be a bad mama bird if I just kept cushioning it because that handicaps you. So I've got to keep pulling things out to make it prickly and uncomfortable. To at some point you have no other recourse but to go to the edge of the nest and then just take off. And that metaphor isn't, again, a one and done thing. There are many times that we leave multiple nests of beliefs, multiple nests of comfort, multiple nests of identities that at some point you got to fly away from. And so I've seen you. I know what you're capable of, and that's why I choose to follow my instinct in terms of the way in which we talk sometimes, because that's that's all that I know to do.
Right, and I'm a willing, person, and this is how I've always communicated with you as well, and I try to not hold back, and when you ask me how I feel about something, I really try to
Mhm.
figure it out and feel it because, uh, I I believe that's in in my experience, that's the best thing to do is really
Sure.
try to examine it, and, my
And that's all that I'm really wanting to ask in this session
yeah,
is to make sure that you do that not with just me, but with yourself,
right,
because that's really where this is going to take off. Is that if you can allow this same process with yourself. Otherwise, now you're handicapped to someone like me always facilitating, where you have the capability to sit and to think about those feelings and begin to communicate. And you're going to be able to do that much better than I can or anyone else can.
right,
Because you're going to have an honest dialogue there about what's the fear attached to. What's the belief? Where did this idea of instability come from? And really start to percolate and become curious to to how did that grow into a belief? What's it modeled after? Who said what to you? All that kind of good stuff.
mm. It's interesting, m I grew my belief system and what I was taught from way back all the way through to now
Mhm.
is that in order to be successful or to, uh, uh, live a life of comfort, this is what was expected of me. This is
Mhm.
how I need to live. This is how I need to dress. This is the car I need to drive. This is the place I need to live. And I have all of these taught and self taught conditions in which I feel I in order to be worthy, I need to have those things and those archetypes, as you've mentioned several times. And I think the willingness to be able to let go of all of those ideas and those beliefs of anybody in this town sees me if I'm not driving this car and having this kind of money, then they're going to think that I'm not worthy. I need to sit with that and let go of that because it doesn't matter. And I'm, excuse me, I'm in a place now where I really need, in order to grow as a spiritual being and person, I really need to accept the fact that it doesn't matter really any of those things. It doesn't matter whether they take the car, or it doesn't matter whether they
Yeah.
take the home.
And you're your best teacher. You already taught yourself that how to dissolve the fear of being alone was by being alone. So, how do you dissolve the fear of what people think matters other than being in a position where you've got to look at how much you're tied into what every what all these other systems are quote quote expecting of you and of me and of anybody else?
Mm,
It's it's just all made up, Jeff.
yeah,
It's just all made up. And it's masterful in its illusion and its density and its membership,
yeah,
because we've all bought into the membership of the illusion, and so we think it has to look in a certain way. But I'm telling you, instead of trying to go from 0 to 100, just start and go to this first little incremental piece of just sitting with your feelings.
mm.
And maybe try not waiting till there's yet another crisis, but just do it as a as an appointment, if you will.
Yeah. Well,
And I know that's a goal, but the idea of it is to not laden it with some expectation, but again just to be with it. You're not trying to get rid of the feeling, you're not trying to manage the feeling, you just want to have a conversation with it.
yeah.
You're not trying to control it, you just want to find out what's going on with it. No goals other than just to listen.
You know, my idea or what comes to me is the my whole root of my fear is
Mhm.
based in what other people think
Mhm.
and their idea of what success is, not my idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my
How, how unmanageable is that?
how,
You're trying to manage a fickle world. Whew.
well, and it's interesting. You say, "Why wait for the other crisis?" Well, the other crisis is coming up in 4 days. When's May 1st? May Day. Um, that's the next crisis, and there's no way I can surmount anything in time. So, again, I got to call the landlord. So,
There's no way that you know of, so you might as well surrender to the old way and just invite in whatever solution wants to come.
yeah,
And call your landlord.
yeah, yeah, and I think millions of people are the same issue. But for me personally, it's surrendering the idea that I'm less than because I can't afford rent. It has nothing to do with my worth as a person, and I need to surrender to the fear of where I might have to live with my daughter. I need to let go of the fear of that. And the other thing is, this is what's not serving any purpose. It just occurred to me. My thinking about being out on my own is only making more of being out on my own possible. You know what I mean? So instead of thinking about or visualizing myself as an okay person and worthy, I'm thinking about, oh, I might have to move. I might have to move. The more I think that way, the more I'm going to bring that to me. So once I surrender to the fear and then start thinking about solutions, the solution isn't going to come. I'm just going to be stuck in that state of fear and more than likely manifest that.
So, so the fear of what's going to happen to you, the fear of what other people are going to think. What does it mean to surrender that?
Mm,
What does it mean to surrender that? So play with this. You're just handing it over to something that knows better than you.
mm,
You're not you're not handing it over, you're not running away from it. You're dissolving yourself of the need to figure it out. Now that doesn't mean that you don't again be proactive
right.
and call your landlord. But you have to look at this idea that your solution already exists. Do you hear me when I
Mm,
say that?
yes. Yes.
Your solution already exists, and that solution cannot come to you when you are encased in this management of fear. But if you drop and you surrender and you go, okay, I'm not going to try to figure it out because none of what's going on in the external world makes sense. I will make calls. I will do what I need to do. I will ask what I need to ask. But the management of the how, I'm letting go of
Mm,
and just move forward. You will not know. That's going to sound all pie in the sky. But once you cross over the mystery and the how is revealed, you'll look back and you'll go, because you've been here before,
mm.
haven't you?
Yes, with other things, not this particular.
Right.
Yeah,
But you've been here before
yeah.
and you're still here.
You know, I really appreciate you. I hope that I'm not too much of a downer. You know
This is good for me too, Jeff. It is. But you know what I want?
what?
We have just a few minutes left.
Yeah.
How can people support you?
Well,
And I want you to notice how uncomfortable you feel in your body, letting people know that information.
it it
But I want you to give the information anyway.
okay. I knew you were going to ask this,
Mhm,
so I got proactive.
mhm.
And this does, I got to tell you, this really feels uncomfortable for me. I
Good.
hate asking for money.
You're not asking for money. You are asking if people get benefit from what it is that you're giving, to offer an even exchange of energy, because you're giving energy to people. You are giving a resource to people, whether you look at it that way or not.
Right.
And if you're going to value if you're going to value this resource, then you get comfortable with saying, and here's how you can support this broadcast.
Okay. Here's how people can support this broadcast. I just put it up, my Venmo and my PayPal account.
Cool.
And
And tell people if they're going to send it to PayPal to do the friends and family drop down so that they don't take the fee out.
right. Friends
You
and
know,
family drop down. A few people don't understand that yet. Uh,
I know
but it's okay. I just appreciate the charity and the
it's
intention.
not charity.
No, that's right. Okay. The intention and the love and the support. And in all honesty, the funds that I have received have been able to pay for my groceries and my things that I've needed for Mackenzie without putting me in a state of fear because my bank account was going to zero. So it has been extremely helpful.
And you're paying it forward by putting your vulnerability on broadcast so that other people can benefit from your process. You're living out loud.
Well, ho- honestly, that's my intention is that I hope that someone can learn something from me going through this with you and talking with you about it, that they can grab a morsel or something of your wisdom and maybe feel what I'm feeling and and relate and identify. And my whole reason for doing this is for that someone else may be able to benefit from it, um, even if I keep repeating myself.
Okay.
You
You
know.
know what? If this feels good to you, what I know for you and what I see for you is that the seed that has been planted during this unprecedented time in our world, the seed of this broadcast, and your natural ability to be able to talk to people
Mm,
gives birth to unprecedented joy.
Mm.
And
Thank
you will look back and play around with this. You'll look back on this time and you will be so grateful that all of this came down. Because if it had not, you wouldn't have whatever that thing is. Play in that energy for a little bit. Play in the what if energy that this gives birth to something that you didn't even realize would bring you so much creative satisfaction
and appreciation.
and appreciation, and look back and go, gosh, I wouldn't change a thing.
Mm,
And when you feel paralyzed by your fear, bring that into the
mm,
bring that into the conversation,
mm.
so that the voice of the fear and the shame isn't the loudest voice. You can still listen and go, I hear you, and
You just froze up, David.
uh,
You froze up.
frozen.
Yeah, you froze for a minute.
Oh, okay.
Uh, but I think I know what you were saying.
It was probably the most brilliant thing that's ever come out of
It
my
was.
mouth.
So
Well, thank you again,
thank you,
my friend.
David. I appreciate you so much. And here's to moving forward. And you're always going to be hearing from me.
All right.
This has become such a regular thing and regular show, and I have regular viewers that tune in.
Cool.
And um, if you're okay with keeping going until we get out of this thing, that I would like it.
Sure. If nothing else pops up and I don't see that it is, we have a steady date on
Okay,
Tuesday.
David, I appreciate you and I love you and thank you. And I'm going to take us out with this funny music that has this power tone in it that that's supposed to help us manifest
There,
greatness.
there you go. It's all done. Take care, my friend.
All right, thank you, David.
Bye.
Bye.